Okay, let's dive right in. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're uncovering this massive and honestly often totally hidden cultural force right here in the United States. We're going to be exploring the journey of discovering German roots in America, and it's just this fascinating dive into how one single culture quietly but profoundly shaped the nation we know today. We're going to look way beyond the obvious cultural stuff and really dig into the human stories, some absolutely staggering statistics, and the everyday traditions that might literally be hiding in plain sight in your own living room right now. Because whether your family arrived in, say, 1726 or 1926, there's a remarkable legacy here that's totally worth remembering. So let's get started.
So be honest with me for a second. Have you ever caught yourself at a party or a get-together saying something like, well, I'm part German, part Irish, maybe a little part English, or maybe you swap in Italian, Polish, or Scottish? If you've ever rattled off your family's unique cultural fractions like that, I want you to know you are in very, very good company. Millions of Americans know they have at least some German ancestry, but for so many of us, it's kind of just become this distant line on a genealogy chart, you know? Or maybe just a vague memory that gets brought up once a year at a family reunion. But as we're going to see, that one little fraction of your heritage actually carries a massive story.
To truly wrap our heads around the scale of this, we really have to look at the numbers. 40 to 45 million. According to official U.S. Census ancestry reporting, that is the number of Americans who identify German as their primary ancestry. That figure alone is just staggering. I mean, to put that into perspective, that is more than the entire population of California. It places German Americans among the very largest and in many areas the absolute largest ancestral groups in the whole country. Just pause and think about the sheer volume of history, culture, and life represented by over 40 million people sharing a common origin from one single country. But wait, here's where the story gets really, really interesting. While the official census says up to 45 million, experts know it's entirely reasonable to believe that well over 60 million Americans, and honestly, probably considerably more, have at least some German ancestry in their family tree. So you've got to wonder, how does a discrepancy of like 15 to 20 million people even happen? Well, it happens because over the past 2 centuries, millions of German immigrants married into families of countless other backgrounds. The lineage diffused, it blended, and in a lot of cases, it actively went underground. Which begs the question, why exactly did these roots fade from our collective memory? First off, you have to look at history. Many German surnames were intentionally anglicized during periods of really intense anti-German sentiment, especially around World War I. So names were shortened. A Schmidt literally just became a Smith, a Kuck became a Cook, and speaking the German language at home was basically stopped in its tracks. Add that to the natural intermarriage across generations, the tragic loss of old family records, and those traditions just gradually blending into mainstream American culture. The result? Millions of people today who simply call themselves American actually have German ancestors they don't even know exist.
You know, there's a saying I absolutely love. Every family tree begins with someone brave enough to start a new branch. It is so easy to look at census data and big historical trends and totally lose sight of the deeply personal, intensely emotional reality of immigration. We're talking about real people here. Your ancestors. People who made this unimaginable choice to just leave everything they had ever known behind them. They didn't have the luxury of knowing how their story would turn out in the end. They only had the sheer bravery to begin it.
Let's actually put ourselves in their shoes and walk through the daunting reality of that journey. Imagine it's the 1800s, and you're boarding a crowded steamship in a port like Hamburg or Bremen. You've packed absolutely everything you own in the world into a few wooden trunks. The emotional weight of that moment is honestly hard to fathom, especially when you realize many of them never expected to see Germany or the family they left behind ever again. Weeks later, they arrive at American ports, New York, Baltimore, Galveston, with little more than hope. They had to learn a totally new language, build farms literally from the dirt up, start businesses, and just work incredibly hard. And the only reason you and I are here today is because they actually did it.
Now, when we think about this heritage today, our minds almost automatically default to the familiar images, right? Giant pretzels, bratwurst, Oktoberfest, giant beer steins. And look, those traditions are absolutely wonderful and totally worth celebrating, but the impact goes so much deeper than just food and festivals. German immigrants were practically the engine that transformed the American Midwest into one of the most productive agricultural regions in the whole world. They built our infrastructure, they completely revolutionized the brewing industry, and they made these massive foundational contributions to engineering and architecture. The impact isn't just cultural, it's structural.
Because of those wider contributions, German-American fingerprints are literally everywhere across the nation. They became our teachers, our pioneering scientists, our architects, and the soldiers who faithfully served their adopted country. Honestly, if you drive through states like Pennsylvania, Ohio, Wisconsin, Texas, or the Dakotas, you're going to see century-old brick buildings on these historic main streets that were built by German craftsmen. You'll see beautiful historic churches with German inscriptions carved right into the stone. We often just don't recognize these fingerprints because they are so deeply woven into the very fabric of everyday America.
Now, looking at this breakdown, there's a really crucial concept we need to keep in mind here. Being proud of your German heritage does not mean you're ignoring the rest of your family tree. Actually, it's quite the opposite. America's story is the story of many cultures coming together. You can be incredibly proud of being part German, right alongside being part Irish, English, Italian, Polish, or whatever else makes up your background. Exploring your German roots is really just about highlighting one very important, vibrant piece of that beautiful cultural mosaic that makes up your own unique family history.
Which brings us to a really fun question to ask yourself right now. Are you unknowingly celebrating German traditions? I mean, so much of what we just assume is, oh, that's just the way our family does things, actually has deep, specific cultural roots. Heritage has this truly remarkable way of surviving in our homes, passing quietly from generation to generation, even when the original stories themselves have completely faded away. Let's take a look at what some of those hidden habits might actually be.
Think about it. Did your family always bake Christmas cookies together? Do you have specific, maybe slightly quirky Christmas ornaments with German origins? What about gathering for a massive, hearty Sunday meal? Or having fierce, intense debates over the correct way to make potato salad based on your grandmother's recipe? But it's not just food and holidays, it's our values too. If you were raised with a really deep emphasis on hard work, pride and craftsmanship, doing a job right the first time, punctuality like being fiercely on time, and warm hospitality, there is a very good chance those core values were intentionally passed down from German ancestors generations ago. The truth is, heritage just has this remarkable way of surviving, even when the stories themselves fade. Your ancestors might not have been able to pass down their native language, and they may have even had to change their names to fit in. But they passed down their spirit. They passed down their recipes, their unshakable work ethic, and their deep commitment to family. That culture lived on through the daily, ordinary rhythms of their descendants' lives, echoing quietly through the centuries, right down to you.
And fortunately for us, today we have this unprecedented ability to look back and finally understand the present. Technology has made piecing together these faded stories easier than at any other point in history. Through DNA testing, digitized online immigration records, church logs, passenger manifests from those steamships, and historical newspapers, you can actually track the journey. But it doesn't even have to start with a computer. Actually, it usually just starts with a few conversations around the dinner table. Asking your older relatives about old photographs or their childhood memories is the absolute best first step in turning those dusty names on a chart into real living people with extraordinary lives.
So if you're feeling that spark of curiosity right now, there is an absolutely incredible modern resource designed specifically to help you on this journey. German Heritage USA. They are completely dedicated to helping millions of Americans rediscover the people, the places, the traditions, and the remarkable stories that help build both their family history and the United States. Whether you are 100% German, just 1/8 German, or honestly just fascinated by the culture, they offer this incredibly welcoming community to help you uncover your legacy. Exploring their platform, you're going to find it is just an absolute treasure trove. German Heritage USA provides extensive family genealogy resources to help you actually dig into those old records. But it's also about experiencing the culture as it lives and breathes today. They feature heritage travel guides, literally mapping out road trips to historic German-American towns across the country. They highlight exactly where to find the most authentic food, the absolute best local Oktoberfests, and the museums preserving this history. It's this fantastic, holistic approach that ensures learning about your ancestry is engaging, fun, and just deeply, deeply rewarding. Because ultimately, knowing where you came from really does help you appreciate where you're going. Rediscovering your German heritage isn't about being stuck in the past or looking backward. It's about identity, it's about family, resilience, and optimism for the future. By learning about the courage and the profound sacrifices of your ancestors, you gain this deep appreciation for the foundation upon which your own life is built. It grounds you, and honestly, it gives you a deeper sense of purpose as you go out and write the next chapter of your family story. And that leaves us with one final, very important question to think about. What is your family story? The next time someone asks you about your heritage, I really hope you find yourself smiling and proudly saying, "I'm part German," knowing the extraordinary, sweeping journey behind those words. The history is out there waiting to be rediscovered, and the traditions are just waiting to be celebrated. I highly encourage you to take that first step today.
explore those roots, and to all of you starting this fascinating journey, willkommen!